Hi guys, it's Bud here and welcome to episode 2 of the Roundup. First of all, I just want to say a massive thank you for the support that we had in the first episode of the Roundup. It was very appreciated. Um, Obviously it is a brand new thing for me, so I'm still trying to get used to it. Apologies as well, I have turned the microphone up. I know I was a bit quieter last time. I have actually lost my voice a bit, so please bear with. Obviously I didn't want to not have an upload for the second week because I thought that was quite tin pot. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the season so far, the 2024 Call of Duty season. Go through the pre-season, go through what the rosters were originally, have a brief talk about the Major 1 qualifiers, and then obviously the Major 1 LAN. And we'll do the same for Major 2, and then for Major 3, obviously we reviewed last week's matches already on the last episode, so if you haven't already watched that, please make sure to give that a watch. We'll be talking about this week's matches, and we'll also do predictions for next week as well. We'll also be handing out MVP of the week, and I think that's a pretty obvious one this week. But obviously I'll explain that at the time. If you are new as well, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It is free to subscribe. We do upload the roundup every week. Next week's topic has already been decided. So I might mention that at the end of this episode. I haven't actually decided yet. Also, like I said, because I've lost my voice a bit, that's why there isn't a webcam. But because I'm just not feeling 100%. But probably I don't know when we'll put the webcam on. I basically need to find like the perfect placement of it. So I kind of need to have a proper think about that. So it might be a couple more episodes before we start using the webcam. I think it's just a bit easier doing it like this, to be honest. So obviously, Call of Duty, it was a 6 month off season, which is ridiculous. Then we started to have roster mania, where rosters were getting formed. For the majority of the league, the players were released and were free agents, which meant anyone could sign them. Including some very big names. Obviously, the 2022 World Champs LA Thieves were all released. Pred and Sib were also released. And yeah, obviously I've just got an article here from .esport. They've got the list of the rosters that were made, so we'll just go through them. These are obviously just the original rosters. Obviously, there's some changes. I think every team outside LAG and the top 4 teams have changed at least once. So obviously FaZe is Abizi, Celium, Draza and Simp, and they are the best team in the game. There's no denying that. Obviously Draza came in to join FaZe after being released from the LA Thieves. And yeah, they look really good this year and will be everyone's champs winner, I think, in their predictions. I think I actually had Ultra before the season started, and I had Ultra and FaZe as the top 2, but I think it'll be the other way around. Or potentially Optic in second. Anyway, Boston Breach was Capsidal, Priest, the Slashy, and Snoopy. Now, obviously, Capsidal's back in challenges now. Priest and Snoopy are still there, and Slasher was released a couple of weeks ago after the major. Which I still think was a terrible decision. I mentioned that on the last episode. Carolina Royal Ravens, obviously Clay, God RX, Gwyn, and Real. So God RX is retired from COD. He didn't even play one full event, but he was dropping like 0.4, 0.5. So he was really poor and he was really slow. So they obviously got Fellow instead. Gwyn's obviously been amazing. And then Real had visa issues, so they brought TJ in instead as a sub, and then he ended up being permanent. And now Real plays for the Heretics, so I'm glad for that because I think he's a really good player. Attach, Nero, Purge, and Standy with the Las Vegas Legion. They've had 2 changes. It's now Attach, Nero, Geo, and ASIM. Obviously, Standy now plays on the Rocker and Purge is in Challengers. And then LAG remains the same, so it's Assault, Diamond, Con, Estriel, and Fame. On paper, probably the worst team in the league, but they're probably 11th out of the 12. They're good on LAN. They seem to be quite good on LAN, but just not at online. They're horrendous. The LA Thieves was Afro, Cammy, Ghosty, and Joe Deceives. Only Ghosty and Joe Deceives are actually still on the team in a permanent role, and now they're joined by Kremp and Nasty. Miami Heretics. They've changed that fourth spot a lot. It's Vickle, Metals, and Lucky have played all year. Yerney had one major. I think Yerney was really, really harshly dropped. I would have actually kept him instead of playing Eric Boom, because now Eric Boom's been dropped, and now it's Real. And Real's better than both of them, don't get me wrong, but Yerney was good online in Major 1. I was a bit surprised by the drop. I know he was poor on LAN, but... Minnesota Rocker next. Oh, sorry. Accuracy, Linz, Awakening, and Vivid. Now, Awakening got dropped, and rightly so. I think the Vivid dropping was a bit harsh, especially for it to be for Standy. I don't think there's really that much of a difference. I also would have probably put Vivid in Vegas. I think Vegas being with... Vivid being in Vegas, I think would have been really good for the Raleigh players. Now, obviously, Gunless has replaced Awakening, which I think was the right decision. And I actually think Accuracy's had a really good year this year. New York, obviously world champs, but they did make a change. They replaced Priester with Sib. Harsh. Sib's a better gun, like a better. I don't know. He's more skilled on the gun, but I think Priester was more of that team player. Um, but I think, they can work their issues out. Then obviously you've got Optic. So Dashi and Shotzi were there again. And then to replace Hugh was Pred, which obviously is an upgrade, but Hugh was really good for Optic last year. And then Ghosty obviously got dropped, which a lot of people were disappointed about. Myself being an Optic fan, I actually wanted Sib to replace Ghosty, but it was Kenny instead. And to be honest, I'm very happy with Kenny now, to be honest. And then we've got, to finish it off, oh no, there's two more, is it? Yeah. So Seattle Surge, Abuza, Arcites, Hugh, and Illy. Arcites and Illy are no longer playing in this team. It's now Brezzy and 04. If I'm being honest, I know they beat New... Oh, I'm just giving a spoiler, haven't I? Whoops. I don't know. I think when they dropped Illy, they just dropped off massively. And the reason, obviously, we don't know the real reason to why Illy's no longer on the team, but he was the best player. And then Toronto is Kleenex, Envoy, Insight, and Scrappy. Obviously, Envoy replaced Hixie, who's now in Challengers. Now, I'm a big fan of Hixie. I think the fact he's been playing Challengers all year is a disgrace. Now, I can't see a situation where he comes back into the league this late into the season, but hopefully next season he's back in. So obviously there's been a few changes, but we're just gonna go through all of the qualifiers. We're not gonna do like KDs and map counts for these. We'll do it for this week's qualifiers though. So obviously the major one started on the 8th of December. The first match of the season was Atlanta FaZe vs Boston Breach, which was 3-2. Surge beat Thieves, and New York beat Optic in a map 5. So there's a lot of hype for that Breach team after the first game. Taking FaZe on map 5. Just hasn't been the same since. And then Miami won 3-0 against the Ravens. They looked really good after that. Vegas beat Rocker in a map 5, and then Toronto beat LAG. Then this is where we had 4 matches, which was way better when you had 4 matches on a day. Seattle won against Boston, and then I think Ravens were the first team to get a reverse sweep, and they reverse swept the Legion to win 3-2. New York beat LAG in a map 5, and then FaZe won 3-0. Oh no, I've got yeah, because of the times they've actually put, like, this game was on the Saturday schedule, and then this game was on the Sunday schedule. And yeah, obviously Optic won as well. So that was the first week of qualifiers. So there wasn't any like major shocks really. Like here we go again. Like this season, it's just been dominated by the big four teams. Now I know that obviously when I when we talk about this week's games, I'm going to change the narrative a bit, but there is a huge gap regardless. I think. I mean, 3-0, 3-0. Obviously, that was a Saturday game. They didn't play twice in the same day. I actually think this was a bit of a surprise though. LAG winning against LA Thieves 3-0 at the time because everyone thought that LA Thieves would still win this. Oh, actually, no, this was a huge shock. I forgot about this. Yeah, I'm not sure how on earth the Boston Breach won 3-0 against Toronto Ultra, but they've won 5 matches all year and none at LAN. They have 50 CDL points, but they managed to win 3-0 in this instance. Yeah, as you can see though, it's just kind of the same situations. I mean, that one was close. Obviously, Vegas, who only won 1 match in their first split before LAN, almost got Optic. These two were probably the other surprises. I mean, Miami Heretics with a 3-0 win over Optic, and obviously, if anyone can remember that watched that, Vickle, doing a pause into the camera, which then Pred obviously got his revenge very shortly after, and then Toronto slammed New York, and then the final matches. I mean, Ravens took FaZe to a map 5. But the last match was FaZe versus Optic for the first time this season, and FaZe absolutely slammed them. They absolutely slammed them. So that was the Major 1 qualifiers. Sorry, just a bit slow, the website. Played events. I thought I clicked on that, to be honest. So then we got to LAN. So obviously the Thursday, realistically, the expectation with how the first split went, of online games, we kind of all thought that these would just be a pretty straightforward win for the top 4 every single week. And FaZe, yeah, 3-0. I mean, to be fair, I didn't think anyone thought LAG would even be in winners bracket with the squad they've got, but they were. Then the biggest shock of Major 1. No, there was 2 big shocks, and the first one obviously was this one. Which I'll quickly have a show of this just because it was a surprise. Minnesota Rocker winning 3-0. And it was the control was close, the hard point was close, the search was pretty dominant from Minnesota Rocker, but yeah, I think everyone was a bit surprised by this series, to be honest. I mean, you can kind of see it was quite close within like the kills. But yeah, New York really struggled in Major 1. Then Toronto won 3-0, and then, like I said, Pred did get his revenge. Pred did get his revenge in the end with a 3-0, and he did that celebration right into Vickle's face. Moving on to Friday, obviously it was the loser brackets. And yeah, the first game was obviously a bit of a surprise. We had New York 1, Carolina 3. And like I said, the hard point again was close, but the second hard point just wasn't. You can see Kismet really struggled, and that's kind of been a factor all year. I think he's nowhere near the same player that he was, sorry, last year. You can see the kills though, and the damage that Carolina had. compared to New York, you could just see that you can even just tell that they dominated that. And to be fair, in that match, they were actually really slow to start with, Carolina, in that map fort terminal, but they just brought it back and were winning every single gunfight. And then LAG beat LA Thieves again. They seem to have LA Thieves' number, LAG. And then I'd say this was another surprise, to be honest, because Miami had a good online split. Yeah, they had easy opponents, but to get 3-0'd by Vegas, who won one game online, was a bit of a surprise. And then Seattle and Boston took us to a map 5, but Seattle did get the dub. Then it was Saturday, where LAG beat the Legion, and I think that was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. Both teams were pretty poor, but you kind of still expected, I think, the Legion to win that. But I do remember Fame's 3-piece and Inversion, which was really good. Which obviously won them that map, and they got top 6. And then Seattle, Carolina. Carolina should have won this 3-1, but they messed up in the final hill of the hard point on Invasion. And then Illy had a masterclass and managed to get it to a map 5, which they won. And then FaZe Optic in the not the winners final, in their second winners bracket match. And the same story that continues all year long, FaZe beat Optic 3-2. And then Toronto played Minnesota, and they won 3-0 in the other winners match. And then Optic had to play again against Seattle to make it to Championship Sunday, which they did. And then it was Sunday's matches. Oh no, sorry, Minnesota LAG as well to make it to Championship Sunday, because then they'd have played Optic. And Minnesota won 3-2. And to be honest, if LAG had got to winners final, I think that would have been insane. Awful online, but good at LAN. It's weird. They've won 3 matches online all season, and have won 4 at LAN. And then Optic beat Minnesota 3-1, which we kind of all expected. I think we kind of all expected Optic to win that, to get to top 3. And then the winners final, Toronto won 3-1 against FaZe. They looked really good. All major, they were the best team. And then it was the losers final between FaZe and Optic. And like I've mentioned already, FaZe won, as you'd expect. They're 6-0 against Optic this year. And then the grand finals, Toronto Ultra took the dub, and we'll briefly go through this. Insight 1.4. Now, he was my MVP of the event, but it was actually given to Kleenex, but for me it was Insight. I think it would have been Simp if they'd won. I mean, look at how close the hard points were. 11 and 13 points. The Search and Destroys were dominant though from Ultra, and FaZe obviously won the control. But yeah, it was a good winners final, and I have got a couple of clips I'm gonna show from the winners final. After this advert, by the looks of it. Apologies about that. And there's 2 as well. YouTube's adverts are ridiculous these days. Does anyone else agree on that?
If you had 2-for-1 cinema tickets for a Tuesday or a Wednesday to compare the market, who would you take?
Played for the kills, and the terrors are getting them all.
So obviously there you saw that Simp, a few kills there for FaZe. You'd think at this stage that FaZe would win map 1.
Speak of the devil, and he will come down from the sky and clean that point out for you. Well, you got to get that trophy. Yeah, no, not there for Simp. He is going to fall. That is the 6 Breon fountain that delivers you this P1 time. Draza jumping over top, can't make the place. Scrap there for the kill, and it looks like Ultra making them work for it. Bad news, though. There is a trophy system down on the hill. Can it be disabled in time? No.
Obviously, this is before the update where the trophies can't stop cruise missiles anymore. So obviously, stuff like that would. This is like a completely different game, basically, compared to now.
No good. It doesn't hit. Toronto's still in control. And also, you're going to have a lot of things to dance with in this moment. FaZe can still break this point and win, but by the looks of it, they might just chalk up a good chunk of this time and rotate towards new. By the looks of it, P2 is going to decide this game. Scrap staying down, staying in cover, staying on the time. 10-second game now. Envoy up close, reinforcing the point. The new hard point to the top left is all FaZe. And you got 12 seconds before that hill is going to pop. Ultra going to have a man in all. They got to try to make the break. That is not the start they're looking for. Inside on the wings, looking for the extra kills, the damage good. But 4 players for FaZe are grouped up at new.
Easy just crosses the way of the alley. And now the fight is on. You have to get in there fast. Kleenex does. Cuts through the back. Can't get the second. The hard point still in the hands of FaZe for now, but nobody on the time.
And FaZe have the close spawns as well. So
Scrap from the outside, finds one. The back line now, the hip fire, no good. Time now in FaZe's hands. The break.
Ultra hold. And they're going to get it too. Insight going to clean house. The spawn is distant. And Ultra steal game number 1.
So there's the first clip. Obviously, a really close match there. It's going to get the ending of the second hard point. I mean, if you look at the scores, really, you can see here that you can see there that it was basically Ultra actually dominated it, really.
And now with the extra kills, you see Ultra. Everybody group up together looking for the chow.
Sim squares up, takes the fight. 25 seconds to go. Stay down, Mr. President. Abizi on the cross. Pushes forward, gets 2. Honest A, back in the fight.
And he got 2. That means we're going to more than likely go towards new Ultra. They toyed with the idea, but this game is going to end in P1. And Draza went on the fullest of flanks to try to set his team up.
Back we go to P1. Every single moment has to go the way of FaZe right now. Ultra, they're in the apartments. They're in fire. They're in money. FaZe have got to get a move on right here and now. Go, send it, try to contest. It can't be done.
And then obviously the winning moment
It's a 2v2.
of Major 1.
Cell going against Envoy and Scrap. Split on the map for the moment. 32 left on the clock, and Scrap gives you the next one. Another gunfight won.
Can Chris Lair save his team now in the most dire of moments? 25 seconds on the clock. Smoke is out.
And Sam, he's trying to pierce it. He can't get it done. Ultra are your champions.
From the fires of an embarrassing defeat at Champs, the team reborn. Envoy joins the...
So yeah, a really good event there from Ultra, and ultimately based off the whole event, they deserve to win. Right. So then we'll move on to Major 2 now. Right. So, Major 2. And this is where we start having 2 matches in a day, and this was ridiculous. Carolina were actually 2-0 up against New York here, but got reverse swept. Even Boston beat them. Close one there, obviously, between Toronto and Minnesota. And Minnesota and Optic. See, Minnesota only won 1 match, but they were playing 3-2 against. They only lost 3-2 to Optic, who went 7-0. Obviously, there's a big match, FaZe versus New York, and New York actually won, which I think was deemed a shock, almost, even though they're a top 4 team. It's just, people expect FaZe to win every game, really. FaZe versus Ultra, 3-0 FaZe. I don't think people were expecting that based off Major 1, to be honest. They thought it'd be a lot closer than that. Obviously, Optic Boston was a close one. Then there was Optic versus Toronto Ultra. Toronto Ultra won both hard points, but Optic did the Neslo, which was win both searches and the control. LA Thieves finally beat the LA Gorillas. And the final match... Oh, actually, I forgot about this one. Yeah, FaZe lost to the LA Gorillas. I still can't really believe this happened. It was 2-0 to the Gorillas, and I still thought they were going to get reverse swept, and they almost did. But yeah, FaZe lost to the Gorillas. I don't know how that actually happened, but it did. When you think about it, it's pretty crazy that that actually happened. And then obviously we had the Major 2 tournament. So the Thursday matches all kind of went the way that we expected, but LA Thieves should have beaten FaZe. They were 2-0 up. No, sorry, it was they won the first map, then they bottled the Search and Destroy, what should have won it, and they won the Control. It should have been a 3-0 to Thieves, but it just wasn't. Everyone else won comfortably. Then on the Friday, Boston versus Minnesota, the Burger Bowl, 3-2 to Minnesota. And then LAG beat the Thieves again. I couldn't believe it. And then the Ravens had a masterclass against the Heretics, who still haven't won a map on LAN all year. And then Las Vegas beat Seattle, which I kind of expected. And then the LA Gorillas won again. They beat Minnesota Rocker. They're just a different breed on LAN, but they're horrendous online. The other game for top 6 was Carolina versus the Legion, and it went down to a round 11, which Carolina won to get them some vital vital CDL points. And then FaZe just beat the Subliners, which was a close one in winners bracket. And Optic beat Toronto. And at that stage, I actually thought that Optic were going to win the major, even though they never win the majors. The last major they won was Major 1 at Vanguard, and I started watching it Major 2, I think, or Major 3, I can't even remember. Watching like the CDL properly and that. And then New York beat the Ravens 3-0, and Toronto beat the Thieves 3-1. And then it went to Championship Sunday, where New York slammed Toronto, and that was a bit of a surprise that it was such a straightforward win, to be honest. And then Optic played FaZe, and obviously we all know FaZe won. And then Optic beat New York, and going into that grand final, I thought FaZe would win, and they did, 4-1. But it was a very close 4-1. 26 on there, 1 round in the search. The invasion Optic should have won, but they've messed up. 23 in the hard point, 2 rounds in the search. However, in that search, to be honest, FaZe dominated it. These were your stats afterwards. Kenny had a really good series, so did Simp, and Simp was the official MVP of this major. And that was who I had as well as my MVP. But yeah, a really good series from a really good major from FaZe. I think Optic played well as well, but obviously they didn't win. Now
has entered the chat.
How long did it take you to work your way around the building?
I'm going to show here a couple of clips.
I could put a little air tag in my pocket.
Let's not start that idea.
Or I could just have a little bell like a cow around my neck.
I can hear you coming.
You know?
Jordan, this
home broadband powered by the UK's fastest 5G network.
Loading up, and I think we are in for them out of the point. Nice two-man setup. Watch. Once again, will be. So he's actually easy outside on boxes. Looking for the attack. The bomb now starting to get planted here. 4-on-4 retake. Around 11 madness. Here we go. Cell Dashy watching the flame. Very patient on both sides. 35 seconds. 7.5 to defuse. 30 to go. Info. Spot. Shotzi wins it. Abizi trades it. Kenny has to worry about both sides. 25 to go. Time dwindling. Chelsea's Dashy. Chelsea's Dashy. Now they're going to start to cross. Start to work this area. But Dashy able to win it. Sim now. The last player alive. Not a lot of time. And Dashy goes huge for Optic. We are all tied up.
Huge round. That would have been a 4-0 otherwise.
And phase. You have the play from recover out of this situation. And the point man right now is shot. All streaks have now been used. Hey. A close. He dead. Sorry, 4 dead, 3 alive for Optic. 3 on it. Oh my God, here we go. They got the stack. Second tick is done. FaZe trying to go. It's moving so quickly. Can they get in and contest? They're soaring through. It's just about done. The contest is in. Shotzi kills everybody in front of him. But FaZe are able to get in. Just barely get in. One team kill hurts, but my God, it's close. Still time for Optic to get there. Kenny with another one. 4 lives remaining for FaZe. They have one last chance if you're Optic. Kenny the point man, here we go. Gotta hold with no respawns. They're holding for now. They win 1. Nobody left. FaZe hold with no respawns remaining. As another crazy finish here on Invasion.
And that was really disappointing from Optic, to be honest. And I'll just get the winning round now for FaZe.
Looking to get another first blood, potentially spotting for info, shots and spots given. They fly at him. They're sending it to him. He repositions. The movement's on point. And Pred put to sleep. Abizi 10 and 5. Now to Cell. In the stun catches Kenny again. Shotzi trying to find the trade. Not gonna happen. MC backs away. I think is Cell aim locking onto Kenny's forehead because I think he just headshot him 4 or 5 times in this map. The problem here too for Shotzi is there's so many players around him. Look at the mini map. He's got to try to find this second. Now bomb is down. All down to Dashy. Big Bruce for the 1v3. Can he tear him apart? You got eyes right on bomb. He's gonna check the corner. Oh, he didn't check it. Doesn't clear the corner. And Atlanta FaZe take it. The first champion.
Obviously disappointing, as obviously I wanted Optic to win, but FaZe were the better team, but it was a close series. Right, and moving on to the third part of this. Third part is obviously just the matches from today, this weekend, sorry. Before we do that though, there was obviously quite a big announcement. And the announcement obviously was that Optic will be hosting Champs. Yeah, Optic will be hosting Champs, which doesn't normally happen. Champs is normally hosted by Activision. Will they win? I mean, I think if Optic win, it would be huge, like huge. But obviously that's a long way away. We don't know what'll happen. I haven't really got too much on these matches. We will go over this one though. I think we have to. Gwyn. Wow. 3-2. His teammates do a bit, but not a lot. 115 kills with 20,500 damage, the kill record this season for a rookie is mental. And that does bring up what next video is about. I'm going to be talking mainly in the next one about Rookie of the Year contention and why Gwyn is clearly the standout and will win Rookie of the Year, because he is the standout candidate now. But yeah, really good series there from Ravens to win. Obviously, they're all playing now in the same location. Optic 3-0, Ultra 3-1. Close series there between LA Thieves and Miami. Optic 3-0 against Legion. Seattle beating New York. This was the other shock, really. Well, there was another shock, but this was another huge shock. And to be fair to Seattle, they were really good, but Kismet and Sib were really poor. Especially Kismet, I think. He's just not the same player as he was last year. The Bulldog. But Seattle had won 3 control maps all year, and they've beaten New York at a control, which I just find crazy, to be honest. I thought Bresci was really good, or 4's doing decent since coming into the league, and deserved to win. And then the final day, Carolina won 3-0. This time it was not a Gwyn carry. Everyone played really well on Carolina. I think they'll make champs this year. And then a really good game between Boston and Minnesota, but Minnesota win it because Boston are terrible at search. Ben Beans, dead! Masterclass though for Boston in that map for Vista. It was unbelievable to watch. And then we have to talk about this. It's not just the 3-0 against Ultra, it is a smashing. A Celium 1.83 KD. 0.5s and 0.6s bar scrap for the Ultra. They got absolutely destroyed. I mean, Envoy has been really poor all season. He's not the same player as he was on the Thieves. Hixie was putting up better numbers last year. This is what I mean, like the Hixie... People said Hixie was crap because of his stats. But everyone else was playing really well. He's kind of like that, like, Shield almost, where he'll interact with the gunfight first, get killed, but then he'll get traded by his teammates and stuff like that. I mean, Celium went double positive in the map 1, and he almost did in map 3. It was just... It was a really... I mean, Abizi went 11-1 in the search. Like, that just sums it up. FaZe just absolutely absolutely destroyed Ultra, and are comfortably the best team in the game. So for me at the moment, there's FaZe at the top spot, then Optic are behind FaZe, and then it's New York and Toronto after that, and then it's the bottom 8. So Thieves versus Ravens. These are the predictions for the next matches. So Thieves Ravens, I think it'll be close, but I'm gonna go for 3-2 to the Ravens. I think it'll go to a game 5. LAG versus Minnesota, awful match. 3-1 to Minnesota. Breach versus LAG, Jesus Christ. That is the worst matchup of the entire season. But I think it'll honestly be... I think it'll be 3-1 to Boston. I think LAG win the search. Toronto versus Carolina, I think that'll be 3-0 to Toronto, to be honest. And then Minnesota versus LA Thieves, I think will be 3-1 to LA Thieves. And then the Sunday matches, Seattle versus Las Vegas, I think Vegas will win that 3-1. Optic versus Miami, I think will be a 3-0 to Optic. And New York versus FaZe, I think will be a 3-0 to FaZe. And that is it for this episode. And I just showed you the JTL standings instead. Just to finish it off. But a massive thank you to everybody that has watched, that's watched this episode. I do really appreciate it. Please like if you've enjoyed it, and I will see you. I'll see you next time. Next video will probably be out. It's always going to probably be Tuesday and Wednesday at the moment, but I always put it on the RoundUp's Twitter in the bio. The Twitter is the RoundUp YT. So if you do want to obviously follow that Twitter account, it is appreciated. I've enjoyed this episode, obviously recapping the season. This was just because I started the RoundUp during the middle of the CDL season. I thought it would be best to do an episode on it. But yeah, so next week it'll just be the matches. We'll always do the matches and then the main topic. So the main topic is the Rookie of the Year and why Gwyn is the standout contender for next video. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.